For some reason, I don't really know why, I've been looking at names recently, names in the Bible in particular, and some of the names in the Bible are just weird. And one of the weirdest out there is Habakkuk. I'm not sure if you've ever read Habakkuk. It's there at the end of the Old Testament. It's a really short book, and it talks about a specific time in the history of God's people. And God had told his people that because they had disobeyed him, they were in rebellion, that he was going to send the most terrifying army the world had ever seen, the Babylonians. And there's this description of them here in chapter 1. It's frightening. They're compared to wolves, as swift as leopards, like eagles swooping down, intent on violence. It fills you with fear just reading it. And Habakkuk doesn't understand why. He's a prophet, someone who speaks directly to God, and yet he still struggles with doubt. And the little book Habakkuk is filled with his doubting questions. Why? How? I don't understand. He says at the start, "How long, O Lord, must I call for help and you do not listen? Why all of this injustice? How can a good and loving God allow bad things to happen? How can you just watch as all of this happens?" So Habakkuk says, I'll wait for you to respond. Will you stand up against these accusations? And God does. In chapter 2, God responds. He says, write this down, Habakkuk. This is important. He says, I know that the Babylonians are evil people. I'm a just God. I love justice. I'm not blind to what is going on. They will receive what they deserve as well. The righteous person, however, will live by faith. And the one who trusts me knows that I am good, and I will always do what is right. So leave it with me. He finishes by saying, the Lord is in his holy temple. Let all the earth be silent before him. You see, Habakkuk is put in his place. And he finally understands why God is doing these things. It's all in love. It's all for the good of his people. He says there in this song in chapter 3, verse 16, I heard and my heart pounded. My lips quivered at the sound. Decay crept into my bones and my legs trembled. Yet I will wait patiently for the day of calamity to come on the nation invading us. Though the fig tree does not bud, and there are no grapes on the vines, though the olive crop fails, and the fields produce no food, though there are no sheep in the sheepfold, and no cattle in the stalls, yet I will rejoice in the Lord. I will be joyful in God, my Saviour. The sovereign Lord is my strength. He enables my feet. He makes my feet like the feet of a deer. He enables me to tread on the heights. Maybe you feel like you don't understand why God is doing what he is doing. These past few weeks have had you asking, how long, O Lord, must this go on? You're surrounded by bad news. You're surrounded by fear. You think to yourself, how can such a good God allow such a bad thing to happen? Well, let me encourage you with a couple of words from an old preacher from around 150 years ago. He said this: God is too good to be unkind and too wise to be mistaken. And when we cannot trace his hand, we must trust his heart. You see, we don't always understand what God is doing. We don't understand his methods. But what we can understand is that he does everything for the good of his people and for his own glory. And we can trust him in that.